Okay, so it's that time of the year. It's end of the school year. Woohoo! I love end of the school year. I never know who is quite more excited, my kids or myself, for being done with our homeschool year. But this year we had something very interesting happened. My firstborn is very diligent and kind of a go-getter, and you dangle like the tiniest little carrot in front of him and he just goes crazy. So I gave him permission to just go for it and work as hard as he could to finish out the school year, and he finished like 3 or 4 weeks early. So I have one finished and two other ones who are not quite done yet, but they're now heavily motivated to get done just like their big brother. So that is actually kind of awesome. But I figured I would take this opportunity as I'm closing out the school year for one of my kids to kind of show you some of the things that we do in our school year to kind of finish things out, and especially with the stuff, like what do you do with all that homeschool stuff when you're done with the school year? So I figured I'd share with you some of my tips on how I organize things. So before I go too far into how we organize things for the end of the school year, I should mention that I am intending to do several posts on how we organize for our school year in general, because a lot of how we finish up has to do with how the whole thing was prepped and planned out during the summer. So as soon as I close all my kids out, I will start prepping and spend the entire summer getting ready for our homeschool year, which, by the way, since I homeschool with little kids, that is really the key to me to having a successful homeschool year, is being on top of it with your older kids' stuff. And I'm going to have a 7th grader and a 6th grader and a 1st grader next year officially in our homeschool. And so when I've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old as of next year, that does add a totally different dynamic to how we do our homeschooling. So the key to me is getting completely organized. So again, I will be linking videos here, probably up above in the little corner, to different links that I'll do, different videos that I will do about how we organize for our school, as well as different curriculum things. And I'll also put all the links below as well. So be sure to check those out. But here we go for our end of the school year. First and foremost, I should probably introduce you to our checklist, our weekly checklist that I created the front cover of it. But this is what my kiddos check off. It has everything they need for the year. So as they go through, they have their outline of all the different subjects that we go through, and they have a little checklist. So this is how I somewhat know that they're done, is if everything is checked and if they've completed all the work that I have for them through the year. And again, I will outline how I set this up later. But the key here to note is that this obviously is not all me. I added some things in, so you can see that I've kind of like written in my own grammar and handwriting. But this goes to answer the question that many people ask: what curriculum do we use? We use My Father's World. So we have been using My Father's World for several years now. We're in year 3 of their cycle that they do. They do a 5-year cycle. And so we did Rome to Reformation this year, and this is the history notebook. And we mainly use My Father's World for history and Bible. So this is the history notebook that went along. It is all in order, and it has all different things that he had to write in. Boys are supposed to color these things in, or not, well, the kids are supposed to color these things, and my boys could not be bothered coloring, so I gave them permission not to color. But they had to do all the maps and all the other information for the year and fill out all their notebooking pages and all the different things that needed to be done. So the history notebook is done. So really all I did is I took that out of the binder, which is over here, and it used to have this really pretty, there it is, binder cover, which now I'm using for the cover of all of the work that got done for the year, which I'll get into that in a moment. But this is our binder. I even have this cute spine that I made to match the top. And in this binder, I have things divided into days and then into subjects. And so for me to grab history was super easy, because I just went behind this tab and grabbed everything. And it was already in order, because that's how I have them organizing it for the year. So that is how I grab that, as well as writing. Those are history and writing are the two main things that I keep in this binder. One other thing I want to show you in my weekly checklist is this is my Get to Know Me sheets. I created this and I have it linked in my blog. on our first, I think it was the 10 fun things that we do for our first day of school. So I will attach that link below as well. But we have a get to know me in September and a get to know me in June. And so my son just finished filling out his. Now you have to note one thing. He is now 13 and 5'8" and weighs 125. When he started this school year, he was 5'4" and 100 pounds. My child has totally outgrown me. I cannot believe it. He grew 4 inches in just a school year. Totally crazy. But this is definitely, this is the mark of being done with the school year, when I give them permission to fill out their end of the school year information. And I'm going to have to change the June to May since he finished early. So my work binder. So the information here is all of the writing that has been done for the year. We used IEW. Again, this is kind of answering the what curriculum do we use? So we used IEW, and I highly recommend Institute for Excellence in Writing. For writing, we use it for writing. We've used it for grammar. We use their spelling program. I really love it. In fact, I used all of their primary learning as well this year. So I used that for my kindergartner, and we'll continue to use that. I think it's called PAL. I use both their writing and their reading program. But for Institute for Excellence in Writing, one thing I want to point out is Lori's workbooks are amazing. So fun, really fun for boys. Keeps their attention with really fun, creative topics to write about. But this is our, this is the workbook that he went through and he did a ton of work in. And then this information over here is kind of his final drafts, his rough drafts, and of course like his typed up pages that he did as well. So I keep all this together. Now, as far as how much do you keep for school records, it's different in every state. So in the state of California, we're required to keep some records to show that work happened, that education happened. So according to HSLDA, which is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, you really only need to keep samplings from like the beginning, middle, and end, and really even just the beginning and end. So you could keep literally like 3 pieces of paper for each school year. But I like to keep more than that, obviously. So what I do is for our math, this is all the math that he has completed for the entire year. And he actually did a 1.5 years worth of math work. But I am only going to be keeping the math tests. So this other huge stack is going to be thrown away. And this is all the sample work that I'm going to keep, and that's just his math tests. Same with grammar. All of our grammar that he did all throughout the year is going to be tossed. And I'm going to keep just the grammar tests. For our penmanship, we use A Reason for Handwriting, and I've really enjoyed it. I believe this son has actually completed the very last book that he has. So since I'm only doing samplings, there's no tests in this, I'll keep his first page and maybe a few of my favorite ones. So see the completion of each lesson, they have to write out a memory verse. Sometimes I'll keep most of these, but I'll probably keep like the first one and the last one, and then several of my favorite verses that he put together. For science this year, we used Apologia, Exploring Science with General Science, and this is again what my 6th grader did. This typically is a 7th grade book, but our co-op was doing it, so I went ahead and bumped him up, and he did a great job. He handled all the reading on his own and the notebooking on his own as well. So he did a great job with that. This is the student notebook that goes through and shows all of his work and all of the information that he had to read and learn about through the book itself. So we are keeping that to make sure that we have a record of the work that he did for his science. And realistically, again, I could tear out a few of these pages and just save this. So if you are a minimalist, you can go very minimal on what you keep for reality check for me. I have so many math tests that I have not finished grading, and this is just his pre-algebra. I still have 4 math tests for algebra as well that I need to finish up, but I have so many math tests to finish and grammar tests that I have to finish grading. So I got a little behind on grading this year. Not least, we have our vocabulary workbooks, copy work and memory verse, and spelling work. And I created the covers for these and just kind of used an adhesive over the top of them. Again, I mentioned all this in my post about our first day of school and how I prepped for it. But this is what we use for the year. For our spelling, we again use IEW. I think it's called the Phonetic Zoo. And since he has not finished out, we still have almost half a book to go. I'm not going to separate this out. I'm going to let this go until 7th grade. So on here, I actually have a little set that we started. Can you see that? Is it focusing? That we started in September 2014, 6th grade. And then I have a spot where I'll write in Sharpie when we finish it. So I just made a little note on our work binder information here that my note is just that all the spelling, vocabulary, Latin, and copy work, that there are workbooks that are going to be used for 7th grade. So again, if I ever needed to show the reports or anything that I'm saving, I know exactly where my records are. I thought I'd mention is how I organize our materials when we're done with them. Many of the books we reuse year to year with different kids. So especially since I just finished out my oldest work, I've got 4 other kids that are going to be using the material that he's using. So we use the same textbooks over and over. We get all of the workbooks and student pages, again, fresh and new for each student. But for the textbooks, we just go ahead and keep the same one, and any other supplemental information that we need, like tests, teacher binders. This had a little CD that came with it as well. So this also answers what do we use for math? We have been using Math UC since kindergarten and absolutely love Math UC. It's a great math program, and we're now all the way up to algebra. So we've gone all the way from, I think we start with primary and then go all the way up to now again algebra. So I'm going to file away the pre-algebra book in my math box. And this side I have these huge IKEA boxes or shelving, and so I have 5 boxes here, and they all have different things. So one is for readers and phonics, another one's for preschool and kindergarten. I have language arts, science, and then behind the butterfly chair I have math. So this is where I store all the materials or different information in books that I get through the years. Over here I have 5 boxes again. Box 1, year 1 is behind the butterfly chair. But this is where I keep all of my 5 years of my father's world. And what's great is that as I find things that fit within each year of history or each theme within the history, I go ahead and file it in that box. So even though we've completed year 1, I go ahead and anytime I find things that are on geography, I toss it in that box. And then year 4 and 5 are U.S. history and current events. So anytime I'm finding material for that, I just stick them in those boxes. So it's been a great way to stay organized for history and just curriculum. And so I have 10 boxes of our core curriculum. So there you have it. That's how we close out our homeschool year. Basically, I just put binder clips on most of the things that we complete, from our history binder to any of the other pieces of curriculum that we use, like that big work binder. I'll just stick a clip on that one and just keep that all together. I'll also add tabs to it just so I can keep things separated. I'll have writing and grammar and math all separated out on that. And I'll try to include any small art that they've done for the year. The big ones I'll take a picture of and just keep that on file within my iPhotos, and I usually add a little link that will have their name as well as art as well as school so I can find it. And then I will sometimes, with their history notebook, sometimes I have that actually spiral bound. Makes it look a little neater, and it's something fun that they can go through if they want to review history at any point and see what they learned through the years. So those are kind of the extra things that I do at the end of the year. But the most important thing that we do is we celebrate. We celebrate their achievement of completing another year. So later on this week, I'm going to take my oldest son out for lunch to go celebrate, and we'll talk through what worked and what didn't work for him, any ideas or tips he has that he thinks will help him work more efficiently for the next year. And really asking your kids those questions is a great way to get your homeschool to work more efficiently. And then I do have a report card / evaluation that I do with the kids, but I typically give that to them at the beginning of the school year. And that's because that's when I review their goals with them. So I like to look back at what they achieved last year, and then I can really spend time looking through what their strengths were and what areas they need to improve on. And so that's what we end up talking through right before we start our school year. And I give them their new checklist at that time and go over their goals with them. And so that's a whole nother celebration, breakfast or lunch that we get to do together. But that is how I close out our homeschool. I hope that helps. Be sure to subscribe to this vlog here, and also check out my blog. I have lots of great information there for you as well. and I'd love it if you subscribe there as well. So subscribe here and subscribe there. I have links to everything I mentioned down below. So I hope you have a great end of your school year, and we'll see you soon.